My old korua, Eramiha Kapua, once said to me, "You people go to the front of the meeting house. Let me stay here in Te Ao Kohatu, the old world. This is my world. Your world is still to come. Go into your own world. Pick out the things that mean something for you today." Born in 1928 and raised in the Ruatoki North Bay of Plenty region, Wilson was, and still is, one of the most important artists to the Aotearoa art canon. Having grown up with the influence of his father, a master Ngati Tarawhai sculptor and carver of Arawa, as well as his mother's people of Tamaki Moana Nai Tuhoe, Wilson gained an exceptional understanding of his heritage and culture's artistic techniques and traditions as he grew up. Upon receiving a scholarship to Wesley College in Parramatta, he was noted for his historical illustrations, which no doubt kick-started his eventual climb into the prestigious Elam School of Fine Arts in Auckland during 1940. Being one of the very first Maori to attend the Elam School of Fine Arts came with its own set of challenges that, one can assume, emboldened Wilson to continue to push for his own style of work to be recognized. Within his years at Elam, he continuously questioned the working theories of the Western art world, arguing that there should be a Maori art theory as well, with one of his tutors having been quoted as saying, and I feel very uncomfortable repeating this, if he persisted in questioning the exclusion of a viable Maori art theory in the institution, then he should, quote unquote, go home and wear a grass skirt. Ew. Wilson, of course, did not let this comment deter him. He further came into conflict, though in a friendly rivalry sort of way, during his time of studying Nai Tuhoe and Aotearoa traditional art practices during his honors year at Elam. While in Rotorua, he came into ideological conflict with Ngati Porou brothers, Pineamine and Hone Taiapa, two of the most highly respected practitioners of customary Maori art in Aotearoa. The friendly argument was over their strict adherence to tradition and Arnold's more progressive views towards Maori art, quoted Oriwa Solomon in an interview with Wilson. It was, however, this very melding of tradition and progression that ultimately became what defined Wilson's works and gained him notoriety within the contemporary art world, to the point that he was invited to incorporate his works into his study at the Teachers Training College, where he worked on creating programs to teach young students about traditional Maori arts alongside the study of more Western classical art figures. Along with other contemporary artists such as Ralph Hottere, Marilyn Webb, and Adset, he questioned the orthodoxies and practices of both Maori and Pakeha art traditions. Quick side tangent, but it is important to the point that I'm going to be making. I would like to add that Wilson's work is some of the first non appropriated, abstracted Maori artworks that I have been introduced to. For the longest time, there were many artists that I had just assumed had been given the okay to use Maori motifs and symbols for the reason that, well, these symbols could be in any culture, therefore it's not specifically Maori. However, when it's specified that these symbols were taken, as in specified by the artists themselves, were taken from Maori, and these artists are Pakeha, there is an issue with that. And it wasn't until this particular class that I realized the issues regarding this sort of belief of Pakeha taking Maori motifs without the context of the culture or the blessing of the iwi the motifs were from, and abstracting the symbols to fit what was aesthetically pleasing to them. And yes, while I am sure there is an argument of art shouldn't be gatekept, I will counter with my own argument that some art forms and symbols have significant meaning to their creators and cultures of origin. And in particular, if the art form is from a colonized group of peoples, then taking their motifs and twisting them to what you feel is aesthetically pleasing is only furthering the colonial effects, and in general is just inappropriate. If you wouldn't take a symbol of significance of your own culture to alter at your leisure, then why should you do so for another? Granted, this argument is heavily simplified for the purpose of the required video length, but I digress. If you want to know a little bit more about the subject, it's a bit more in depth, I recommend reading the 1992 edition of Headlands, Thinking Through New Zealand Art, particularly the section Maori at the Center on the Margins. Okay, tangent over. Now back to the main point of what I was getting at. That point being that Wilson is from the culture whose art forms and motifs he's playing with. And that is what makes his work so important. Rather than being an outsider who has no context, no understanding of why certain symbols and motifs are the way that they are, Wilson has the opportunity to understand these very symbols and interject them into a westernized style, making it something that respectfully combines both theories, forms, and worlds that he argued for while in Elam. It is the significance of a Maori artist who learned both Maori and Western art theory, bringing Maori art into a Western contemporary context that makes him so significant to the Aotearoa art canon. And this is why I believe that any number of his works could be incorporated into our campus's gallery. Now, when it comes to Wilson's art pieces themselves, one can clearly see the impressive craftsmanship and care that has gone into their creation. Part of the very reason why I chose Arnold Manaaki Wilson as my chosen artist of study is due to the unique and beautiful pieces shown within the required reading. If I'm being perfectly honest, I love these art pieces. Each clay sculpture has the impression of his fingertips as they built up and smudged and smoothed the forms of important figures and friends into existence. You could see the chisel marks, the touch of a maker who clearly adores his craft. On each piece of wood, as the image is freed of the solid tree of its mother and birthed into the light of the world. Yes, I'm being poetic. Please bear with me. From abstract faces and features to the delicate lines of worn out, calloused hands of a worker in love with their craft, one can almost touch the image in their mind. Imagine the bubbling texture of the clay with all of its smudges and fingerprints, the smooth polish of the wood, the thin, scratchy lines of the chisel, and the slight stickiness of the paint that has been layered across the art piece. I just love this work so much. I particularly adore the maquettes of the unfinished installation project, anchor stones of the three main canoes of Mataatua, Tainui, Arawa. Though small, we can see the grandness of the scale that was planned for them. We could feel where the sun would crest through the tops of the stones, like mountains or the prow of a grand ship, and cast cooling shadows along the footpath below, where many would be stopping to rest and lean against the sculptures after a long day. I wonder if these people, walking along the footpath, would pause and admire the craftsmanship. Would they take in the meaning of the anchor stones, the significance of their location, the significance of the viewer resting there? Would they understand the cultural context? Would they perhaps have their own interpretation and significance? Another piece of work that caught my eye, and my flatmates, was the singing trees. I like the beads, she said. They're very pretty. They're actually poles tuned to sing when the wind rushes through them. At least that was the plan for the final installation, I told her. Well, I like them even more now. They sound lovely, she replied. Wilson has deconstructed the Western art theories and applied them using traditional techniques to tell the story of Aotearoa, just like his forebears, but with a newer twist on the pieces that can resonate with both worlds of Maori and Western art, while having been created in a loving and respectful way that only someone within both communities would be able to understand. I believe that given the history of Wilson's practice, of him being one of the firsts of many firsts to become a part of the Aotearoa art canon, the first Maori to be accepted into and graduate Elam with honors, the first decently documented Maori artist to combine traditional and contemporary techniques and push the boundaries of what was considered Maori artwork directly into the modern art world, and being one of the first educators of Maori art and traditions within our schools, I believe it is only fitting that with his combinations of firsts and his history of teaching the next generation of these practices, that his artworks should be considered to be featured within our campus's grounds. I think you would probably love to know that the future generations have continued on his legacy of our own artistic endeavors, of applying our cultures into our arts, of challenging the status quo, and participating in the joys of creation. Thank you for watching. I have included my sources in the description of this video. This includes links and the title of the book that contained the interview with Arnold Manaaki Wilson by Orewa Solomon. Yakuke, chipensela chike.